You know, man, I've been thinking about this a lot. You ever just sit and think, like really think about how some people live with such deep discipline, such intense respect, and unwavering conviction? I'm talking about Muslims. There's something powerful there, and it's not just about religion. It's about the way of life. It's about values that, in a world full of chaos, actually bring structure, identity, and honor. You look at how Muslims carry themselves, the prayer 5 times a day, the fasting during Ramadan, the humility, the sense of Ummah, the global brotherhood. That stuff is no joke. You don't stick to that kind of practice unless you're truly committed. And when you see that kind of consistency in a human being, it demands respect. We live in a time where people can't even commit to a diet for 2 weeks. But here's a group of people that have been holding the same core beliefs for over 1,000 years through empires rising and falling, colonization, war, modern distractions, all of it. And they still wake up before sunrise to pray. That's not just faith, that's power, that's honor, and here's the real kicker: Muslims are taught that this life is a test. Think about that. If you believed every challenge you faced was preparing you for something eternal, wouldn't you walk differently? Wouldn't you treat people differently? That belief breeds a kind of internal strength that's just rare in the world today. The mainstream media, they often get it twisted. They'll paint Muslims with a broad brush, show the extremes, ignore the everyday acts of humility and kindness. But when you actually meet Muslims, talk to them, live around them, man, you start to realize this is a people with deep roots, unshakable identity, and a code they actually live by. Honor isn't just given, it's earned. And Muslims, by and large, are living with a sense of purpose and discipline that earns it every single day. Discipline breeds honor. Let's talk about discipline, real discipline. Not the kind where you tell yourself you're gonna start hitting the gym next Monday and then forget by Thursday. I'm talking about the kind of discipline that shapes your entire existence. That's what you see in the Muslim way of life. Think about this. There are people, millions of them, who wake up every single day before the sun rises. Not to go grind, not to check emails, not to hit some cold plunge trend. They wake up to pray. Before most people even open their eyes, they're already making wudu, washing their hands, face, feet, cleansing themselves physically and mentally before standing still and reciting words they've memorized in a language they may not even speak fluently, but they know it by heart. That's a level of discipline that doesn't just come from culture, that comes from belief, from dedication, from inner control. And it's not just once, it's 5 times a day. Imagine doing that every single day. Through work, traffic, family chaos, bad days, good days, lazy days, doesn't matter. You pause, you drop what you're doing, you face a specific direction, and you pray. That's not religion as a side hobby. That's a lifestyle. That's embedded discipline. It's like mental martial arts, constantly realigning yourself with something higher than your impulses. And the thing is, most people don't get it because they can't imagine sticking to anything that consistently. We're living in this age of do what feels good, instant gratification. Swipe this, skip that, binge this show, quit that goal. But Muslims are literally training themselves day in and day out to pause desires, to pause distractions, and to focus. Then comes Ramadan. Man, Ramadan is on a whole other level. Imagine going an entire month with no food or water from sunrise to sunset. Not even water. That's not some trendy detox. That's full on physical and spiritual endurance. And the craziest part, it's not done with resentment. It's done with gratitude. People look forward to it. They train their bodies to resist. They train their minds to be calm. They still go to work. They still take care of their families. And when the sun sets, they sit down with others, break their fast, and they're thankful. Not whining, not posting fasting struggles, just silently appreciating the moment. That's discipline, and it's not forced. No one's standing over their shoulder with a stick. It's internal. It's voluntary. You either do it or you don't, but the ones who do, man, you can see the results. They walk different. They carry a kind of peace that comes from mastery over self. You start to realize the honor people feel toward Muslims. It's not just about history or identity or politics. It's that deep respect for people who can master themselves. Because deep down, we all admire those who live with control, people who don't let their cravings, their egos, or the noise of the world run their lives. We all wish we could be that focused. Discipline, real discipline, is rare today. But when you see it, especially when it's practiced so widely across generations by millions, it's powerful, and honestly, it's inspiring, because it proves that honor isn't just a label. It's a byproduct of living with purpose and living it daily. Living for something bigger, you ever stop and wonder what it would be like to live your life like everything mattered? Like every single action you took, every word you said, every thought you entertained, it all counted. Not just in some metaphorical way, but literally, that there's a scoreboard and you're being watched not by the government or social media, but by something bigger than all of this. That's how Muslims live, man. They genuinely believe this life isn't the whole thing, it's just the war. Mup, the test, like, this is the temporary level and the real game comes after, and that belief, it changes the way they move. You meet someone who believes they're accountable to God for everything, not just in a Sunday sermon kind of way, but daily, and you'll notice something different. They're measured, they're grounded, they're intentional, they're not out here just chasing pleasure for the hell of it. They're trying to pass, and think about how wild that is in today's culture. Everywhere you look, it's treat yourself, live your truth, you only live once. The whole vibe is centered around squeezing as much dopamine as possible out of life before you die. But Muslims, they've flipped that. Their whole philosophy is, you live once, but it's to determine where you go forever. That's a completely different operating system. They're not scared of death in the way most people are. For them, it's not the end, it's the next phase, so they're preparing for it, not in a morbid, apocalyptic prepper way. More like a monk with a mission. You see Muslims who are grinding hard at their jobs, taking care of families, studying, succeeding, but they've got this quiet awareness, this spiritual GPS, always reminding them, stay in the right direction. It's humbling. And it's powerful, because when you live for something bigger, you stop making every little inconvenience a big deal. You start asking better questions. Not, why is this happening to me? But, what am I supposed to learn from this? That mindset, that shift from victim to student, it's what gives people strength, real strength. And that's part of why Muslims carry themselves with such calm dignity, even when they're struggling, even when life's rough. It's not because they're delusional. It's because they see the struggle as on purpose. They believe hardship was custom, designed for them by a creator who knows what they need not just to survive, but to evolve. That's some next-level mental resilience. Now imagine millions of people walking around with that kind of mind, set knowing their every act of kindness, every injustice they walk away from, every temptation they resist, it's all logged. Not for likes, not for followers, but for the afterlife, for something eternal. That's what changes the game. Because when you live for something bigger than yourself, you stop chasing shallow stuff. You're not constantly asking, what do I want? But more like, what's the right thing here? And in a world that's obsessed with being right, that's rare. That's something people feel when they're around it, even if they can't explain it. So yeah, maybe not everyone understands the rituals, the dress code, the prayers, or the fasting. But at the core of all that, it's just a constant reminder, this life isn't the goal, it's the test. And you're not here by accident, and when you live like that, with that much purpose, that's where the honor comes from. Unbroken tradition, here's the thing that blows my mind. We live in a time where trends die in what, a week? People jump from one identity to another, one belief system to the next, like it's a playlist shuffle. 1 month it's meditation, the next it's breathwork, then cold plunges, then biohacking, then back to being spiritual but not religious. It's chaos. No one sticks to anything anymore, and then you look at Islam, and it's like looking at a living artifact, a tradition that's been practiced consistently for over 400 years. Same prayers, same language, same movements, same dress codes, same principles across continents, cultures, and empires. That kind of continuity, that's rare, almost unheard of. It's not some ancient relic collecting dust. It's alive. You can walk into a mosque in Morocco, Malaysia, New York, or Nigeria, and it's all the same rhythm, the same words, the same direction. It's like a global sync, millions of people tuning into the same frequency, 5 times a day, every day, for centuries. We're talking about a tradition that survived wars, colonialism, political collapse, economic sabotage, media demonization, and yet, somehow, the people kept the line. That's resilience. That's loyalty to something that isn't just cultural, it's spiritual muscle memory. You don't preserve something that long unless it means something on a deep, existential level. And here's the part that hits even harder. It's not just the rituals. It's the language. Arabic isn't just some ancient text studied by scholars in a dusty library. It's still being memorized, recited, and spoken by kids in suburbs and villages around the world word for word, syllable. For syllable exactly as it was revealed over a millennium ago. Most religions or systems evolve, water down, or get reinterpreted to fit modern lifestyle. Islam, it's been preserved like it's a living transmission. You don't just read the Quran, you recite it, you memorize it. Some people literally know the entire thing by heart, 600+ pages without missing a word. That's like downloading a divine operating system directly into your brain. That kind of continuity doesn't just happen. That's intentional. That's protected. That's a sign that something real is being preserved, not for show, not for profit, but because it matters. Now zoom out for a second. In this hyper-modern world, where everyone's chasing something new, how refreshing is it to see a group of people holding tight to something ancient? Not because they're stuck in the past, but because they recognize the value in it. They're not looking for the next spiritual shortcut. They already have the map, and they've been following it for over 400 years. It gives them a center, a direction, a set of coordinates in a world that's constantly spinning. And yet, people might not always understand the dress, or the beard, or the dietary rules, or why Muslims pray at an airport while everyone else is rushing to Starbucks. But what they're seeing, even if they don't realize, it is an unbroken chain of tradition that has never bent to the chaos around it. And there's something deeply honorable in that, because in a world where everyone is reinventing themselves every few months, just to keep up, these people are living by a code that hasn't changed in over 1,000 years. That's not just religion. That's legacy, that's heritage, that's a living connection to the past, not for nostalgia, but for guidance. Media vs. reality, let's just be real for a second when it comes to Muslims. The gap between media narrative and actual reality is massive. Like Olympic level long jump massive. What most people think they know about Muslims isn't from personal experience, it's from headlines, movie villains, or some cherry-picked news story that was designed to sell fear, not fact. And that's the issue right there. Fear sells. Peace doesn't. Discipline doesn't. A Muslim quietly working a 9 to 5, praying on their lunch break, paying their taxes, taking care of their family, that's not gonna make the news. But one guy does something insane in the name of religion, and boom, suddenly, the entire faith is on trial. That's like blaming all musicians because one rock star trashed a hotel room it's lazy, it's dishonest. And honestly, it's dangerous. But here's the truth most people miss. Muslims are some of the most peaceful, grounded, and generous people walking the earth. Not because they're trying to look good for the world, but because their religion commands it. They're taught that kindness is a form of worship, that even a smile is charity, that hurting an innocent person is like destroying all of humanity. It's literally in the scripture. So yeah, while the media is busy zooming in on the loudest extremists, the average Muslim is out here living by a code that's all about mercy, about self-restraint, about service. You know how rare that is in today's self-obsessed, everyone for themselves culture. Go meet a practicing Muslim and you'll see what I mean. Go to a mosque, talk to your Uber driver, hang out with a guy who fasts all month during Ramadan, gives to charity and prays before sunrise. That guy. He's not thinking about blowing anything up. He's thinking about not missing Fajr and whether he still has time to help his mom with the groceries. But here's the twisted part when people hear Muslim. Their mind doesn't go to the kind, soft-spoken neighbor or the smiling kid helping out at the food pantry. It goes straight to explosions, war zones, threats. Why? Because that's the image they've been fed. Over and over again, movie after movie, headline after headline, it's programming and the effect. People walk around with this subconscious bias. They'll say stuff like, I'm sure most Muslims are good, but, and that but tells you everything. It tells you they've been conditioned to think violence is the default and peace is the exception, when the truth is the opposite. And here's the thing, Muslims aren't asking for pity. They're not even begging to be understood. They just want the facts to speak. Let their character, their actions, their daily lives tell the story, not the fear factory of modern media. Because when you strip away the noise, when you actually sit down and talk to people, something changes. You realize you've been lied to. Not necessarily in a conspiracy theory kind of way, but in the way the system always profits more from conflict than connection. So the next time you hear something wild, zoom out. Ask, is this the norm or the exception? Because if a guy from one group loses his mind, no one blames the whole group. But with Muslims, that's what happens every time. And that's why conversations, real conversations, matter. Because once you get past the filters, once you cut through the fear and actually meet Muslims, you don't see a threat. You see strength. You see humility. You see people just trying to live with purpose and a whole lot of peace. And that truth, it's a whole lot more powerful than the lie. So when you really zoom out and look at the full picture, it starts to make sense. This honor that surrounds Muslims, it's not some myth. It's not hype. It's earned, day in and day out, through discipline that most people can't even begin to comprehend, through living for something way bigger than just pleasure or ego, through preserving a tradition that's lasted over 1,000 years without breaking, not because it had to, but because it worked, through building real, unshakable brotherhood in a world that's falling apart at the seams, and through staying grounded in reality, despite being misrepresented, misunderstood, and misjudged on the world stage. It's easy to get caught up in the noise, the headlines, the movies, the fear. But if you slow down, if you actually look at how Muslims live, how they treat people, how they carry themselves, you start to see it. They're not perfect. No one is. But they're walking with intention. They're anchored. They've got a code that they stick to whether people are watching or not. And that's rare. In a time where everything feels fake, distracted, and shallow, Muslims are out here holding the line. Quietly, humbly, consistently, and that's why there's honor there, not because they ask for it, but because they live it.